it's time to get started on this whole deal, which I've not been looking forward to, because it's scary to do, because it's going to be a lot of work, and weird noises, and I don't really have a plan, which makes it worse. I know one thing though. There's one thing that I feel like I've been lacking in my set of like level design tools for a hot minute now. I think that this is the room where I really need to like take a step back, and before we start putting together this level, which we'll do, I need to make climbable ladders. Because what I'm going to do with this is I want to make kind of like checkpoints on your way to the top, because you're going to be able to fall off, and you're going to likely fall off very far down at one point or another. So every so often, having a ladder that you can like drop down as a checkpoint, I think will be a good thing to do. It also gives me a little bit more flexibility to create some extra height that you can get to without it needing to be platformed to, meaning that I can section off certain parts of this a little bit easier, making sure that, okay, you're supposed to get from like here to like there, but then like the next little bit of linear platforming that's going to go on can be up on like another level entirely, because there can be a ladder in between, and there will be less room for cheesing from one part of the level platforming to another without like my intention to do so. So I think that having ladders in one way or another is going to be an important thing to do for setting up this platform level first and foremost. So that's what we're going to get started with. It shouldn't be too difficult to do, unless it is, in which case we'll figure it out. Greetings from Utah. Greetings from hell, because that's where I live. Clearly. So, ladders, right? Just put that in here. I have thought this through a little bit, but not too much. So we're gonna figure this out together. I'm just gonna call this a ladder for right now, and so what I'm thinking is we have a box collision, right? Is the idea anyway. I'm thinking we have like a gizmo. So we put this into the world now. You will see that we have a little, yeah, that's fine. Like we have this little size gizmo that will just make this a little bit more user-friendly as we go along. Can we make this collider grow from, like, the box extends from the center? I always hate the fact that it does that, but I don't think there's anything we can do about that. I guess the mobility can be static. I don't know. Let's keep it immovable, because that's mostly for like lighting, and this is not like visible. So yeah, what we have to do here, I think, is this box collision set local set position. Set relative location. It's so annoying. That it has like a bunch of different like offset and location and whatever. And I think we just kind of want to like divide this by 2, right? Because it does this from the center position. So if we divide this by 2, this now not quite. Oh well, actually, maybe kinda, because it then also needs to set the box extent to our size. So it still doesn't really put it at the corner, which is kind of, why doesn't it do that? I was working on this before. This always messes me up, man. I guess the Z is the only one that needs to do that, maybe. And then the X and the Y, no. I think we just need to offset this. No, but that wouldn't do anything different, right? Maybe it would. Let's see. Is it just for a bit of usability that will work with in a moment? Yeah, that's not that's not quite what I wanted to do, I don't think. Although maybe no, not really. Set this back to 0, 0, 0 for a moment. Like at least even that doesn't quite work. Why doesn't that work? I must be making some logic error somewhere. Is it as simple as just I don't think so. This is maybe something to do at the end and not at the start, to be fair. But this seems, yes, okay, that seems to work now. And if I pull this to the side, yeah, there we go. So now we have like this little widget that we can use to properly like make the size of this. It's mostly going to be a thing that we use for the height because the ladders are going to be effectively the same width always, I would imagine, but maybe not, we'll see. So then we do the ladder mesh. And the thing with these meshes is going to be we can only add like one mesh at a time, right? So if the mesh is 100 units tall, this thing is going to work in like increments of 100. If it's 150 units tall, it's going to work in increments of 150. So we're going to kind of have to design the level and then in turn design the like final art assets with that in mind. We can squeeze him up and down a little bit with scale, but not too much, obviously. So that'll be a static mesh. Let's just make that a cube for the time being. And then we get the bounds of that static mesh, which we really only care about the Z from this, I think. So we just need to know how many times does this go into that, right? So we divide this by that, and then we round it up. And we'll do this at the end. Doesn't really matter where we do it, but we'll do it at the end. And then we for loop, not a for each loop, just a normal for loop. Add static mesh components, set mesh or assets, and then set local or relative location, which I guess will always be 0, 0, and then z. So it will be our index multiplied by the z extent. And that in theory not quite. We're almost there. Platformers are the best games. I mean, there's not necessarily a platformer. There's going to have some platforming levels, but the game as a whole isn't necessarily like a platformer, I would say. But it's always like fun to have a bit of platforming. So I guess we get this like the half size, and we set that for the X and the Y on these. Yeah. Maybe only for the X. Or only for the Y, we'll see which one. Only for the Y. All right, that gives us like a workable ladder that like spawns in these new ones whenever it is required. And that's effectively a like dynamically adjustable ladder. Now, there is the issue of the origin point of the mesh, because the origin point here is in the center. But for the ladder mesh that we'll make, we'll just have to make sure that the origin point is in the... Let's just make one. Real quick, let's just make a mesh that we can like play around with a little bit. So we can make in modeling mode. Just add a couple of boxes in. Width can be 15. The height can be... I think 100 is actually probably good. Maybe like 200. Let's do 200. Place those 100 units apart. Create... Well, no, let's just do another box instead of a cylinder. This is about 100 units apart, so that would be 100, presumably. Oh, somebody's texting me. All I've been on live, because fucking why not? It's not even somebody texting me, it's Uber Eats, which makes it even worse. Turn down the speed of this camera a little bit, will you? So I guess this would be 70 in height. It would be 15 by 15. Well, no, it would be 85. All right, there we go. We'll get there. And then let's have a 50 units, we copy one of these over. That approximates a ladder well enough for me, at least for the time being. So we can, I think, just merge these together, right? With, I think in MISC, no, maybe in Mesh, Union. Accept, and then the important thing is in MISC, we can do the pivot of the actor. We can set that down to right here. Cool. Let's actually rename this one as well to ladder mesh. We'll make a proper one in Blender at some point, but for now, I just want to see. Yeah, so that works relatively well, aside from the fact that it's still. Oh, didn't actually save that pivot change. Let's accept. It's the pivot of the actor. Is it another thing then? Model Xform added pivot. That's it. So yeah, now this one doesn't go below the ground anymore, but it does have, I think, just one unit too much, and it seems like there's like some clipping happening. Is it clip only at the top one? Maybe. But I think this should be -1 anyway. I don't know if that fixes it or if that's just gonna move the clipping problem one down. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Where is my gizmo? It's just gone. But yeah, essentially this is now a adjustable height ladder, which I guess we actually want this to be -2. Maybe. -3 even. The idea would be that I want to have the box be able to extend beyond the ladder, and only when it has reached the entire like extra height of an entire new segment, add a new like mesh segment, which is this. That way we can have a little bit of like clearance above it without it adding a new mesh immediately. So we can delete this. So that's the ladder. Kind of. Let's give these the default values of 100 and 100 by like 500 in the blueprint or something. So default values would be 100, 100. Let's say 500 is pretty good, I think. So when we pull this in, oh, it also needs to have the ladder mesh by default. Yeah, so let's make this 400. 401, I guess. The default size. And make this maybe not 100, but just like 50. All right, so the idea is, and now we're finally going to get to the concept of this ladder, is that when we overlap with this, we just... I'm thinking only when we overlap while falling down, do we snap to the ladder and change our movement input code to just going up and down. And we change our movement mode itself to be in flying. I don't really know how we're going to deal with reaching the top of the ladder. I guess when we reach the top of the ladder, we just automatically do a jump. That kind of feels like it makes sense. Maybe. We'll just give it a little bit of thought. When we overlap, we check if the actor overlapping is, well, we're actually going to need to cast anyway, so I might as well cast to third person character, because what I want to do there is I want to get the character movement. I want to get the velocity, and I want to check whether or not the z velocity is less than 0. And if it is, I want to set a variable. But I think I'm going to need to make that variable in C++, because I deal with my character inputs in C++. So let's explore that. How are you doing? I am surprisingly doing well, ish, so far. Let's look at the move function that we have in here, right? Because I think it exists in here. There's like a lot of stuff going on here. It's ending jump, that's fine. With tick, we have some old code that I should remove. Movement. Dash, check let grab, that makes sense. Setting up the player input, jump, move. Okay, so we check if we're hanging onto something or if we're knocked back. We automatically return. Then we make a vector 2 out of our input value, and if we have a controller, doesn't need to explicitly say not equal to null pointer. We get our control rotation, and then we add our movement input to our forward direction and our right direction. This is just our normal movement. We're going to add something to that. And I guess we need to put this into, I'm just going to put this into public, like somewhere here. uProperty, blueprint, read, write. Is that? Nope. Bool B is on ladder. By default, that should be false, so I might as well just like equals false by default. Because if we're on a ladder, we do all this. But I'm going to code up in a moment. And else we do all this. Yeah, I think I fixed the state tree thing that I was running into. There's still a lot of state tree related crashes that aren't explained by this, to be 100% clear, I think, maybe. But as I said in the, I was going to say in the Discord, and then I opened up Discord. As I said in the Discord, I think the issue was with 5.5, there's this new feature where you have, like if I do distance compare, this can go for any vector, but you can get a vector variable in state tree now from getting an actor location, and that works fine in transitions. Presumably it would work fine in tasks too. I haven't tried that yet. But specifically when you do that on entry conditions, something goes wrong when you compile it. I think what's happening is maybe it assumes that it's getting in a vector, but it's actually, because you're using the get actor location, it's actually supplying in a pointer to a function. And that makes it go bananas, because it does give you an error about like an assert fail for a struct. A vector is a struct, and if it expects a vector in and it gets a function pointer in, it probably isn't programmed to deal with that yet. But it specifically only does that with entry conditions. With normal transitions, it's fine. So it's a little weird. But I think it's figured out now on my end. I just have a different way of measuring the distance. I mean, it took me a while to figure out that that was the issue. I essentially just reconstructed the entire stage tree, task by task, transition by transition, after every single thing that I added, saving, closing out of Unreal, recompiling, and seeing if it would crash. Because it would only consistently crash on like engine startup. So I would need to close down the engine and restart the engine every single time to see where it started failing. At some point, I got a little bit lazy and was like, okay, these are like 3 of the same task. It's just like 3 times doability, which all like then transition into the same other task. So I did those in both. But still, doing that like one thing at a time, effectively, and restarting the engine after every operation is a slow process. But I figured it out and it stopped crashing now, hopefully. But yeah, so when we're on the ladder, what we want to do, I think, is we want to get the up vector. And this just returns a vector, right? Yeah, so f vector, well, let's just call it up. There we go. And I think we just add the movement inputs. So we add movement inputs up. I guess we might as well make a scale with movement vector y. Yeah, hopefully this is not going to cause any errors because I'm not actually doing, well, doing a little bit of coding now, but like once these letters work, we should be good. I think. How do we deal with like hang jump? Because effectively, like if hang in, we do like all this stuff. So we just set the velocity to, yeah, but I think this is, look, I think this is kind of fine because when we exit the ladder, we're going to be pressing on the forward direction anyway. So if we just jump, we don't have to do this like active forward vector that we do on jumping for the hanging transition, I think. So this should be fine. Do you know how to make a mesh collide with other meshes while being moved under physics? I am not entirely sure what the question is. Because that's how it should behave by default. If you just like simulate physics, it should use the mesh to like simulate the collision for the physics. And if you have another object that's also simulating physics, when a physics object hits it, it should like take over some of that momentum. So as long as both meshes are simulated physics, that should just do that, I think. Let's test this stuff out though. Well, not quite. Well, actually, yes, quite, yeah. Because I need to set is on ladder to being true. When I grab a mesh, it turns off the collision of the static mesh, so don't collide with it. You mean like in editor? Because it might not be simulating physics in editor. or like on simulation that way. It still should though, I think. If you're talking like you have a grabbing mechanic in the game and you yourself have coded that the collision is turned off, well, yeah, then it's not going to interact with the physics. And you have to like just not have that turned off. Again, if you have like a mesh that you're grabbing and is on your character with collision on, that might then also cause other problems. But it's kind of like it either does collision or like doesn't do collision. You can set its like collision responses maybe to not interact with like skeletal meshes, so it doesn't like mess with your character, but it does like interact with other static meshes in the world still. That might work. Did it not open up the ladder again? No, it's turned on and not attached to a character. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure how it deals with being dragged around in the editor if that's what you're doing. I think that should still simulate physics, but it might not because it's not moving through physics. So that might mess with it. But if you just have like two static meshes that both have physics enabled, they should move each other around when they touch. And they should like land on top of any other mesh that doesn't need to have physics enabled, of course. Again, this is the kind of thing that you probably want to like ask in the Discord and not in real time because I don't know off the top of my head. In the Discord, you can also like provide in some more context, write some longer messages, add some screenshots, that kind of stuff. So where the fuck did my ladder go? Because it did not open. Or hold on, did it open up in? Nope, it did not. Well, so far for reopening stuff. Anyway, so yeah, if it character movement thing is less than 0, so that means it's falling down. Set B on B is on ladder to true. And then I guess what we do is we do a line trace by channel. Starting position should be the actor location. And the ending location should be, that's a fantastic fucking question. I guess the Z height should just be the actor's Z height as well. I guess it should just be the X and the Y of this actor's location, now I think about it. Yeah, that makes sense. We can actually just test this out in this animation level real quick as well. Technically, this does make it a one-way ladder now, which is a little... I think it is kind of clipping through itself, isn't it? Yeah. Gonna need to figure that out in a moment. But for now, let's ignore that. Oh, I guess we just need to multiply by 2, and then I think I can figure it out right now, actually. Because this has been divided by 2. So instead it just needs to be like the non-divided by 2, right? Well, that's the wrong axis, but good going. It's the Z. Oh. Yeah, so this just needs to be multiplied by 2. Which has a different issue now. Holy shit. But yeah, that means that it's technically like twice the size that it should be. um, so this just needs to be divided by 2. And then the first index needs to be 1, maybe. That didn't do shit. Oh. First index does need to be 0. This just needs to have 1 subtracted from it still. All right. Little bit of a sidetrack there, but that should fix that. That pretty much seems to have fixed that. And there's no more like weird clipping stuff going on now. So that's fantastic. What we were actually doing is the stuff here. So the out hit will be we'll want to get the location plus the normal multiplied by a small offset. Let's for now say 100. And that will be our character's new location. So get actual location. This is effectively the same, no, set actual location. This is essentially the same thing as our like ledge grabbing mechanic, just a little bit more like specific. And then we also set movement mode to flying. So yeah, let's make this ladder like a little bit taller still. And see if this just works. It would be fantastic if this just works. It does not. It very does not. Okay. Let's draw this. Let's draw that. Yeah. Well, that actually seemed. Well, it should. It should trace to the middle. Oh, I guess it's not actually hitting anything, is it? But yeah, I think what it should do is it should get the actor location plus we'll test this out in a moment. This might still be problematic in some scenarios, I realize now. But yeah, x plus that, and then y plus that, maybe. And then that still has an issue with if it doesn't like. Okay. I guess what we need to do is we need to not trace on visibility, but we need to trace on. Well, we could just make this ledge grab, but that's probably gonna mess with it. Let's trace on camera instead. And the reason that we would potentially do that is because we can just add a whole thing. Oh, it's already open here. We can just add a box. And now the entire thing is a collider. Visibility, I think I use the complex collision, so it would only like trace on the actual mesh. But if we have it like end up here, we still want that to like trigger a trace, right? So that should fix that. We also should just build in. Yeah. I did want to check actually the line trace for even. Okay, that does it in the wrong direction. That explains even more. Well, these just should be minus nodes then instead of plus nodes. Let's not overcomplicate the math. So it's this minus that. I was going to be like multiplied by -1 or do like 0 minus or some weird shit like that. Obviously that's unnecessary. You can just change it to a minus node and then. Okay. And then I guess we just extend this line tracer a little bit further, maybe, because the actual location should be back here. Why did it stop where it did? Oh, I guess it's only either the X or the Y that matters. Yeah. So the X should still just be the X, I think. We'll get there. One of these days, maybe. Okay. That seems to maybe should have been a hit, but maybe it just stopped short of. No, that's definitely a hit. Why did that not hit? Well, before anything else, definitely should just check whether or not this was a hit to begin with, for troubleshooting purposes. How is the setup to deal with collision channels? It should be blocking camera collision. Use complex as simple. No. Project default. I just want the entire fucking block of it. What's going wrong? And again, I guess if we know the end position of this thing, we don't even need to line trace, do we? We can literally just, why am I being so difficult about this? We can literally just say, make vector. That's going to be the X. This is going to be Y, and we're going to like maintain the same Z. We don't need to do this. Well, I guess then we need like the rotation of it as well. But for now, we'll just move them inside of the ladder. Like that's fine. Well, the moving up and down works. More or less. We just like needed to not have friction because it does this. So yeah, ideally, we just add something to this, like get actor rotation, make that into an X vector, multiply that by, again, I'm going to say like 100. We can fine tune this as we go. I feel like most of today is going to be making this ladder, I'm not going to lie to you. I hope that we're going to get to some actual level design, but we'll see. I guess when this happens, we also just immediately need to just set its current velocity to like stop movement immediately. Is that going to set its velocity to 0? Assumedly, that would just set its velocity like instantly to 0, right? And we kind of have a ladder. Fantastic. We need a climbing animation and that kind of stuff, but that's for later. I think it's just like a value that I can set on the blueprint specifically for flying mode, right? It's like it's air friction. That's for jumping and falling, that's for walking. Do we not have like things for flying? Flying, there we go. I guess we also brake at 600 centimeters per second. Maybe we need to brake it a little bit more. I think that is the value that I'm looking for though, right? Let's set this to like just 2500. I don't fucking know. Yeah. Okay. Ladder. Finished. Cool. It also infinitely extends now, but that is an easy matter of end overlap. We'll check whether or not the other actor is the third-person character again. And if it is, we're just always going to make this dude jump, effectively. If he is... Okay. That's something to take a look into, but... I guess it's not technically within... That's a matter of mostly like changing this. And maybe changing this as well. Well, that was a thing. What? Did I type 500 instead of 50? I did. Okay. So when I exit this, I should... Why doesn't it jump when I exit that? Well, first and foremost, it should also... set me back to falling movement mode. At which point jump might not work, but we'll see. Yeah, okay. And then it also needs to set BS on ladder back to false. So I can actually move forward. There we go, that's pretty good. So at that point, we would just make sure that this like more or less lines up with the end of our previous mesh. And now we have a functional ladder. We just have the issue that if we're already within here, and we do the jumping, it doesn't quite work. So maybe we don't do the jumping check, right? Maybe we just do this. And then make it like a little less tight again. But that way it just like works going on here as well. It probably also, well, it doesn't allow us to jump at all now, which I don't quite understand. But when we reach the top, it lets us go. But we should also be able to just jump off at any given moment, ideally. So let's look at that, because I think that's going to be a C++ thing. When we jump, I guess we can just force B is on ladder to be false, because that's always going to be changing to false. I don't know why it doesn't register me jumping though. Is it because I'm already in the air? Might be because I'm technically already in the air, so it doesn't allow me to jump again. Huh, okay. Which is why I have this set up for B is hanging. Okay, now I remember. We can just kind of replicate that. That's not a problem. We just get the velocity and set it like right away to this, and then we do that. We don't need to detach in this case because we're not doing any of that. Yeah, so that should fix that, in theory. I guess when we jump, we actually want to jump away from the ladder at almost all cases, right? So maybe we should make him jump away from the ladder slightly. But that's something to worry about in a moment. Let's first see what it feels like just as it is. I might also make it entirely the player's responsibility so that we don't have that collision overlap thing, because it is annoying. That this only works on initial overlap, right? Because if you're like in the middle of climbing and you jump off and you want to grab back on, that might be a little like iffy to work with. That's what I'm thinking. But let's just make sure that this kind of works. Then we can start using this to design levels with, and then I can refine this at any points in the future. But effectively, yeah, so you get kind of like that, right? So you effectively would have to, it's not very intuitive to do, but you can grab onto it again. Just but like, I think we can actually just make this is overlapping actor, right? So is this overlapping the get player character? Because if it is, then we can just do that on tick. Cue every Unreal Engine forum user losing their collective shit at me using the tick event on something, but to be fair, there might be a lot of ladders in the level here, so this might actually start adding some stuff. So doing this on the character might make more sense, but then it's always doing it even if there's no ladder, so like you can't please anybody. If it's overlapping the actor, we'll essentially kind of just do the same. Well, there we, okay, so there we check the, let's get all of this stuff. Because we want to check whether or not it's falling down. And then let's promote this to a variable instead, so that we can use that instead here in a bunch of different places, so that we can hook these two like flow lines up to each other. We'll also need to set this guy's rotation, I just realized, by the way. But that's an issue for later. So yeah, now that we have that, we can just set this here. And now it should also, when falling down, oh, they should hook up right into there. This can move over. This is a mess, man. Okay. Now it should also catch you when you're moving down while overlapping with it. So you can like re-grab onto it a little bit easier. Or not. Sure. Oh, there's never... Yeah, okay. That's fair. So let's try it again. Yeah, so now you can actually jump up the ladder as well, which is quite fantastic. I'm sure that this is going to cause bugs and issues that will become apparent in playtesting at some point or another. It's also like very slow going down. I don't know why that might be. Going up is very fast. But then going down, super slow for some reason. It's because of my sword? Let's have my sword disappear. What the fuck? Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. Because it's doing this every frame now while I'm going down. So I guess we also check your movement mode. We want to check whether or not this is falling. Because if it's already flying, we don't need to redo this, right? You only need to do this if it is actively like falling down. And after it does this once, it's going to be set to flying mode, so it's not going to like rerun that code. Because I think that's the issue. When it's moving down, it's using the like set actor stuff. So yeah, this works fine now. We can still jump up the ladder, no problem. Okay, cool. Functional ladder. That only took an hour. Holy shit, that took an hour. Okay. Okay. That took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, not gonna lie. I thought we're gonna spend like 20 minutes on this and then we'll be good to go. We'll be off to the races, but I don't really know. Well, then we better get started on the actual level design. Well, we have a ladder right here, so we're at the right place, I would say. And there we go. Let's set it to 2-4 platforming, and then let's set this back to a decent speed as well. And let's add the ladder to the favorites, at least for the time being. Oh, I delete my favorites as well. That's gonna be annoying. So we have this ladder that we can put up to the wall, and then make it go up a little bit, and then from there, now we're going to need to be creative, which is what I've been avoiding doing. So fucking something's going to happen now. Don't know what, but something. I probably should also put a save point down in this location, just because otherwise it's going to be really annoying to go back here constantly. So I will do that after I make this like little initial landing platform. I don't know if my character fits through this. I think it will. Checkpoints. Boom. Yeah, so let's go make a save, which might actually take a moment to get to that place, because I don't think I have a like super secret, super good like developer backdoor route to there. Also, let's lower the volume a little bit. So I think the fastest way to get there is just to go up through the thing that we made last week, which is going to the left here and going through like that backdoor like pipe area. I call it a backdoor. It's not like a developer backdoor. It's just like in-universe backstage. I still like the way this looks. Like, it's chaotic, it's messy, it's exactly the way that I want that to look. And then I also kind of like the way that, like, when you get in here, like, assuming that these are like actual static meshes with like textures and stuff, going through here, this feels good. Like, I like this. I also, holy shit, I haven't even mentioned that. I did some AI stuff. Only up to 5 enemies at any given point can be aggressive toward me. So the game keeps a list of enemies that are actively trying to kill me, and if any other enemy spots me, it checks, hey, is there more than, at this point it's set to 5, I can make that a dynamic value of course, is there more than 5 things already trying to kill the player? If so, I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't see nothing, and it's not going to get flagged as having seen the player. But if there's not that many, fuck. Okay, that bit of platforming is not great. But if there's less than 5, it will mark itself as having seen the player, and it will start chasing you. And then when you like leave its field of vision, it removes itself from that list. And of course, when you kill it, it also removes itself from that list. I realize now that you can kind of like skip over most of this platform probably by, oh no, actually, neat. You can skip over this bit, which is fine. I don't mind that too much. But I think this is the first time I've done an entire platforming thing, so that's kind of cool. Definitely going to need those pipes to be a little bit less round in the final version of the assets. Like having a little bit of a flat top to those pipes is probably going to be good for like gameplay feel. This takes you up all the way to here. There we go. So let's make a quick temporary save file here, shall we? And we can immediately test out this ladder. I can't help but feel that I made a mistake. Yeah, I know what the mistake is. I'm just... well, no, I'm using the actual rotation. Oh, I actually don't know what the mistake is. But at least I'll be able to easily load back into there, so that's good. Yeah, so it seems to be putting me... It only works when it's rotated in a certain way. So it's not taking some kind of rotation into account. It just it is using the actor's rotation. Also, this doesn't actually work. The fuck? Why does this behave differently? Is my question. I am very confused. Because it worked fine in the test level. Why is this different? Because it's not just the fact that it has like that alignment, it's also dealing with my inputs differently. Like, this leads me to believe that it's not setting me to like be on ladder equals true. Is it because I'm overlapping with it and I'm also falling down when I jump up on it? Nope, that's definitely not it. Oh, what the fuck? Yeah, so this entire stream is just going to be me building a ladder, apparently. Fun. I just don't understand. Why it's different. I thought this was going to be like straightforward and easy. So if I just jump onto it, well, wrong way. It does the overlap. So the issue is that this is still 50. This might have been something different in the other thingy-majig. If I set this to 100, does that fix it? I doubt it. Well, at least it sets me properly to being on the ladder. So there's that. And I guess we just need to we first set its location, and then after its location has been updated, we get actor location again on both of these. Find, look at rotation. Only care about the yaw in this case. Get actor. Well, that should always just be 0, 0. We don't need to like maintain any pre-existing values, I don't think. Well, that should make him face the ladder as well when he's not. Okay, there's something weird going on with the movement. Where's the movement code? Move. Yeah, this. Shouldn't do that. Why does it do that? So what it seems to do, I actually don't know. No, this doesn't work. What the fucking hell? It also sets you to the wrong position still. It still sets me to the wrong position. Why does it set me to a weird position? It should set me to the actual location. Oh, this needs to be, yeah, okay, I get it, I get it. So to get the active rotation, yeah, I think this is what we do. Well, I don't think even we get the active rotation. I think we get the actor forward vector. And we use that. The reason that it worked in the test lab was because it was aligned with world space, and right now I don't think it is. I still don't know what the turning around to face away deal is. Now we need to do some tricky math because I don't really know how we're gonna offset it in local space a little bit to the left. I mean, I can literally just make a component, set it in local space, and then use its world space position to set the actor to that as well. While we're at it, let's also look at the third-person character and see if it has any like movement code or anything on a movement event in the event graph here. It doesn't seem like it. Oh, that's not what that does. Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like it. So I don't know why it keeps like turning around. Because it always just turns that direction. No matter where the ladder is actually like situated and how it is rotated. So that's kind of weird. It initially sets it to this rotation, but then it changes, which is, I don't know why. I guess it might be a control rotation related thing. So we might need to update that as well. Yeah, so the size divided by 2. Do we just multiply these or something? Is that what we do? Vector math melts my brain, man. I always get messed up by it. Like in theory, it's not that difficult, but it's just like putting it in practice. Yeah, you see, this kind of bullshit happens. So that's not what we do. Oh, I think. Yes, we do this size dot y divided by 2, and then we multiply that by the axis rotation, I think. Make that into an X factor, all that kind of stuff, just to be sure. And then we add that to there as well. I think this might be it. I mean, that offset me away from the ladder. But I think this is the right ID. We just need to multiply this first by like 0, 1, 0. So it only does it for the y. Yeah, but that's not going to work because that's going to work through to the, yeah, so this is going to fuck up again, isn't it? You know what is, there's one easier way to do this, I think. And that is, instead of trying to make my character be put in a different position, I can just change the construction script on this fucker to not be offset to the left or to the right. Oh, we already have that, I think. Yeah, so this is what we want. Just when we add the static mesh component, that needs to be offset instead then, I guess. Oh no, because we're setting that thing's relative location. So that actually is fine. It's this that needs to be fixed. So this needs to just break. Only do that. I guess that also makes it climbable from 2 directions, which is kind of nice. But that might break it, actually. I think about it. So let's maybe not do that. Or maybe that... Yeah, no, that will break it, I think. But yeah, now it does snap to the middle, which is good. Yeah, that kind of breaks it. So this still wants to have the Y there as well, I think. My bad, the X. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so more or less just like this. Let's do something really quirky and make it, see if it works on a diagonal, because that's like the ultimate test at this point. So yeah, it does just make you rotate away into the 0, 0, 0 direction, which is... Why does it do that? So my best guess as to why it does that is because of the control rotation, right? So when we do this initially, we also use control rotation yaw. And set that to false. And then when we jump back off again, we set that back to true. Do you have a Discord channel? Yeah, should be linked in the description. This is going to only work if we, yeah, we'll need to update that in a moment. But yeah, the Discord should be linked in the description of, if not the stream, at least like any random video on the channel. No, this is not the issue. But we do now have an issue where, no, we actually don't. Oh, because when we jump off, it also still does this, so this actually works. But the control rotation isn't the issue. Where we actually set it to false in both cases. So maybe we should set it to true. I don't think we should. Maybe, well, no, actually that... Oh. Okay. Hmm. Just... I don't know why it does that. I shouldn't be this bothered by it, because in the end, it's like not the most important thing in the world, right? A lot of works to the point where I can design and test levels with it, which is really the only thing that should be mattering to me right now. Aside from the fact that it fucks up again. Why does it fuck up again? What changed? Well, aside from this maybe needing to be slightly bigger. Let's reset that back up. Let's just reset this back to like 100 in depth. Because I'm guessing that is the issue. At least for like the latching on thing. For the rotation thing, I don't have the slightest clue why he just keeps looking off in that direction. But for now, it's fine. We can get like on and off without too much trouble here. So it doesn't automatically like disengage when you reach the bottom as well. Which maybe it should do. Like maybe we should have like a little bottom box. Right there. And you overlap with that one. We effectively just do all this as well. I guess this doesn't need to make it jump. New stream title. Oh, this doesn't quite work. Well, it works for what I... doesn't really, you know. Yeah, for now, let's just ignore that issue. Because it's quite a small issue. Why don't you use C++? I mean, I do for the relevant stuff, but for like little quick stuff like this, it's just much easier and smoother to do it in Blueprint a lot of the time. That said, there's like a lot of stuff going on here which works maybe better in C++. But for things that you're like rapidly prototyping, having to like recompile your shit every time you want to try something out like makes it a lot slower than just doing it in Blueprint. Like eventually maybe I can just rewrite this in C++ for like a slight improvement in like runtime performance, but it's like not actually. So I don't know. I still don't know why. I must have it hard coded somewhere that it like goes into the direction that I press or something. But it's not even going in the direction that I'm pressing. It's just whenever I move, it sets the rotation. And it interpolates it to 0, 0, 0 rotation, which is whack. Again, not the main priority right now. Oh, yeah, so that is a little unfortunate. That's the reason that I offset it. But I guess for the most part, it's not going to be that big a deal. It's mostly a height thing. I just want to have this as a gizmo. Instead of just a height variable that I have here. Honestly, like that's the main thing. Why I use the vector anyway. The width like really actually doesn't matter. So now that we have that, we can start working on some platforming stuff. How long have you been making this game? Good question. Like 2 years, I think, maybe? Something like that. Kind of depends on when you start counting, I guess. Because it's gone through like a couple of like revisions at this point. Yeah, so we just make some platforms to jump to, effectively, to start with at least. I don't have, again, much planned out for this platform level. I'm just going to kind of go through it and see what ends up happening, and if it sucks, it sucks. We'll need to like revise it sooner or later anyway. I have no doubt in my mind. I also should build in some kind of coyote time. I know it's not a platformer, but like especially because it's not a platformer, right? So what I'm thinking is that we make our way like fairly gently up here without too much trouble. Like this is just the start. This is the easy bit. And this massive wall is going to be undergoing construction because we're going to make a hole, which is going to result in the first like little platforming tunnel that goes up, and we'll like exit through like up here somewhere, which will create a bit of platforming across, which will create a bend that ends up here, platform across. That might be all that we do, but that's the only basic shape that I really have like come up with as of right now. And at some point we also like I think when we platform across, we also have like a little bit of like we have a door here that leads into these areas. So you do need to do a bit of initial platforming to even get to like the late stage areas of the dungeon. So with that in mind, we now need to start making platforming here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making, and this is going to be horrible for testing actually, but I'm going to start by making the actual like platforming bits, and then we'll build a like little tunnel around it, I feel. I think that makes the most sense from a gameplay perspective, at least. Um, But that's essentially what we're doing with like block out to art assets anyway as well, right? We're making the gameplay first, and then we'll fill in the art, which doesn't mean that we're not thinking ahead about like what art is going to be here. So it's probably going to be fine. So yeah, that means I'm just going to like, for troubleshooting purposes, going to put in like a big catching platform down here. Let's actually put it like actually down there, right? So my thinking here is that and the irony I realize now is we can make these ladders that like drop down and that kind of stuff for these sections. But the irony is that I made these ladders partly because I want to be able to separate the platforming sections in a platforming stage, so that they can be like physically removed from each other without needing to create extra platforming to create extra height that will intersect with like other platforming bits. Just having a ladder that takes you up a little bit helps a lot there. With the whole structure that we're going to go with here, which is essentially loop outside, loop inside, loop outside, loop inside, we don't have a need for it in that uh, in that regard, which is good, which is probably like better level design, to be honest with you. So what I'm thinking for the actual like jumping of this thing is we had a lot of moving platforms in the last platform level, right? There's a lot of like moving, well, not that many platforms, but there were a fair amount of moving platforms and like moving parts. And what I'm thinking here is what I want to have happen, I think, is the platforms themselves, because it's supposed to be like a mine shaft, are just going to be like wooden extrusions from the wall. Broken down pathways that you're jumping back and forth between, which actually now that I'm saying back and forth, definitely should like put one there. The danger is going to come in with like steam vents and that kind of stuff that you have to time your jumps through, I think. That's the idea that I have now anyway. Maybe that'll change sometime in the future as we work on this gradually. But for now, I think that's going to be the way we do this. Let's actually do a funny thing. I don't know if it's actually that funny. Lead away from this level by a bit, because we need to make like quite a bit of height up here. So I think making the tunnel lead away before it leads back can be kind of like a good thing. Definitely need more like a safety platform here. That should be good for now. Again, these will disappear once the actual like areas are in place. Hopefully. Probably. There's not going to be any danger in between, so jumping from platform to platform, they are going to be super easy. But we'll do this one step at a time. Again, also, this doesn't need to be like high tier Super Meat Boy 3D level platforming. It just needs to be like somewhat engaging. That's actually a pretty like tricky jump with some regards. Which right now it's not engaging because it's kind of boring. And I mean, it is a mine shaft, so we can have like elevators, right? So I'm kind of thinking that we can maybe have some moving parts. So let's copy like one of these over. We'll align it with this in location. Zero out its rotation. There we go. So the idea would be that we have. Let's make this static mesh a bit smaller though. It is moving platform that like travels up and down by like 1,000 over a period of like 8 seconds. And we do that in alternating fashion. So this one would go up by +1,000. And then its arrow would be pointing downward. I could throw like a little bit of extra like dynamic stuff into it, I think. And then we have the platform that you get off on, which is phrasing, be on the top for this one, right? So we still gain a little bit of height by doing all this. But there's something like more happening than just jumping to jump, which is what most of this still is going to be. But it doesn't need to feel like that. Oh, that's not the thing that I wanted to do. Yeah, so with that added, let's do those jumps again. And then when we like exit out of like that wall over there, what we'll do is we'll make some sort of like ladder drop down, so that if you fall down, you can like get back up. I just don't know exactly. Yeah, we'll we'll figure that out, I'm sure, at some point. Yeah, so now we have to like do a little bit more timing with our jumps. I think we might just be able to... Yeah, we can just kind of do that, to be fair. So, yeah, maybe we need to think about something there, because that's a little cheesy being able to do that, I think. Yeah, that might not be ideal. So what if this one is another 1,000 units to the top, and they all line up like this? Where is it now? I did an oopsie. Plus 1,000. Yeah, so they all line up, and then we have like some sort of block in between these two to prevent like just immediate dashing through. So if we lower this by 1,000 units, that means that this can go... So yeah, maybe this one isn't actually necessary. Maybe this can just be like a block that we jump on top of. And these two can be like offset from each other instead. Right, so if we do this, we ride one of the platforms up, we stand on that little blocking thing, and then we ride the other one. Well, no, that still doesn't... Well, maybe that still does make sense. We need to wait for it to be in a position to make the jump. But then we need to be sure that we can't make that jump otherwise. Otherwise, yeah. I just said otherwise twice. That was the start of the next sentence. So we need to wait for this one to be down so that we can jump onto it. That jump just needs to be a little less tricky to make, because that jump is just on the edge of needing a dash. So you will either overshoot it or undershoot it most of the time. Yeah, this jump is not makeable without the extra like little bit of platform there. So you can just like jump onto this, and then this jump becomes very much makeable again. Okay, so I think that is actually like a decent bit of platforming there. Nothing too major, nothing too mind-blowing. I'm not gonna be making any Mario games anytime soon, but I think it's a pretty good start. So yeah, we can put like effectively like some air vents down here. I'm just gonna put the flamethrowers in here as we go along for now, but eventually, presumably those would become like air vents or something of the like. And then this eventually like leads us back to here. How much higher up are we? Well, a fair bit, actually. This entire mineshaft might end up being even taller than I initially like. What? What? Oh, than I actually initially like gave it in the first like block out that we made. Because that is one of. Hold on, are you not? You are not aligned anymore. That's okay. We can just realign you like this. That's fine. I'm not upset. Yeah, so that's just one of the loops around. Then we need to do some platforming that goes through here, like up to here. We might actually like move this. Just yeah, I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna make this effectively entirely like a balcony area. So what we do is we like make this go all the way around. And the reason for that is because then we can just make the ladder for the progression, like the checkpoint progression, just drop down right next to the ladder for if we fall all the way down. Because that wasn't the thing, right? If we just have a ladder that goes all the way down here, it's going to be a very tall ladder, and that's going to be. It's always going to be annoying to like recline, but it's going to be ugly. Is mostly what I was worried about. So we just do this. That still might be a little thin, but that allows us to finally like place one of these extra doors down on top of here as well, which is one of the things that we needed to put in still for a while. This is not going to lead anywhere until we actually have a level built, which is going to be the block out that we do after this. Yeah, this definitely needs a little bit more width, I would say. Like 200 more units or something. 300, that's fine too. Let's make it only 200 for these though. Yeah, that seems fine. Yeah, that's good enough. All right, with all that. Oh, this also isn't a lot. Fuck. At some point, I set this to 50 unit snapping, and it's really bothering me now. But it's okay. We can align everything again. Nobody's gonna die. Well, we're all gonna die one day. And that lets us go through here. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make like one massive ass ladder that goes all the way the fuck up. And we'll make it like appear through like a gameplay action at a later date. No, that's fine. So yeah, so there's going to be one big ladder going up. That's I mean, that's kind of what we signed up for. So nothing to be mad about there. Yeah, that definitely needs a little bit more room. Might do well with a bit more room on each side, actually. Well, this is probably why I had it set to snapping at 50. Because I feel like just picking this and then going back to 50 snapping is actually kind of perfect. So yeah, once again, big ladder. Very big ladder. Yeah, but from here we can just like start building some like platforming again. Because I'm thinking we want to like platform across to like over here. Which for the time being, it's just going to be a couple of simple jumps. Maybe just slightly too simple, but we'll probably make that a bit more interesting next week or over the weekend. I don't know. I missed the stream earlier this week because my internet was super messed up. I don't know if I'll have a lot of time this weekend because I have a lot of other things planned to do as well to like do an extra stream. But if I can find some time, I probably will because I also do want to like stay up to date with or up to schedule with this level design thing, and especially after we make the initial like block out for everything today. I feel like picking up without too much of like a break is probably going to be a good thing. So we can just like make stuff that I can look at on like Saturday and think, oh my god, that's so fucking dumb. And make better stuff. That's probably good. But yeah, if you fall down here, at least you can just like climb back up. But you also shouldn't fall down because these are fairly easy jumps. Let's just load and see. So just looking up, like there's a little bit more like visual intrigue already going on if we just look up, right? That's a part of the thing that I also want to make sure happens is when entering this room, looking up should give you some amount of intimidation factor. And I don't know that we're yet quite there. But we will be. And then at the top, looking down, there should also be a sense of, my god, I did all that. I scaled all that. I am like a god. I'm great. I am superb, even. Which, of course, still is not the case yet. And part of the issue there is going to be that a pretty significant portion of the platform is going to be happening in these like tunnels outside, so you won't see that when looking up and down. That's kind of a fact of the way that I decided that I want to make this. So maybe what we want to do instead is just to make this feel a bit more intimidating, right? And create a little bit of extra height going on here as well. Let's make these square. I think making these squares is probably a good idea. So let's make them just 400 by 400. And the reason that I want them to be square is because that way it'll make a bit more sense spiraling around like this. So that's not necessarily super like symmetrical, I don't think. But looking up from here, like it feels like there's something more going on as a result of that, and I think that is good. But yeah, I don't think that this is like particularly like super symmetrical, because in the X direction, on the Y rather, these are slightly offset. That's probably good enough, and then I can just like move all of these up. Move this over by 100 units because it's set to 50, because fucking course it is. Does that mean that these are not? No, these are alike now. That's good. Yeah, I think that has a little bit more going for it than just platforming across, right? I like these a little bit more. I think we're going to leave the next little tunnel for later. I think what we should do now is we should start adding some like danger zones into here. So what I mean by that is I have like, I don't know what I call it, like flamethrower or something like that. Fire fountain, fire hazard. I think it's fire hazard. Yeah, there we go. So I have like one of these, and we just put these on the wall for now. Well, actually, let's put okay, so there's the issue that there's a set length in how like long the flames are. These should reach further. Like I can make this longer, don't get me wrong, but the flames are gonna still stop here, I think. But that should be pretty easy to set up. So that shouldn't be that big a deal. Let's set this to 350 for now. We can just make this like one wide. Right, and then the wall would go like through here, so it would be a pretty like narrow area, which would probably open up as we go up a little bit more, just to give you a little bit more room for your camera, because platforming in tight spaces is a nightmare. Oh, we don't want to do that too much. And we'll worry about the timings of all these at some future point in time. For now, all that is really relevant is the fact that it's going to like have some obstacle in between. Not each jump, right? Some jumps can just be safe. I want every jump to be super mega stressful. Like this jump is just a jump that is going to be stressful because it's a tight jump. So probably don't complicate that, right? But then I feel like standing too long doing nothing on here might be good to punish. Because we'll have like a flame going here, then one jump that's like just easy to catch your breath, then one jump that's a little bit more difficult. And I feel like this jump should have something going for it as well. Oh, maybe actually I have these trapdoor platforms as well that I made a while ago. Maybe we should like use those a little bit. Yeah, I think that could be kind of neat. Hold on. So we could like jump over like this. It'll be fairly quick, but I think they have like a built-in like grace variable somewhere, right? No, but they can have. So that makes the platforming for that entire section already, I think, a lot more interesting. I'm still bothered by the fact that my character does this, but it's actually kind of nice for testing because it immediately puts me facing the right direction. So maybe I shouldn't fix it yet. So yeah, we have that. Then again, probably gonna want to have be a different object altogether, but that's the basic idea with like different timings. So yeah, these are like fairly quick jumps, otherwise you get fucked. I can't make this be... Well, actually, you can just make that jump down right away. So I'm gonna have to think about what I do with all that, because that feels... Oh, that's just an impossible jump. That is not doable. Ooh, that is doable. Never mind. Okay. That doesn't feel like I should have it be that way, though. Maybe this is another situation where these, like, trapdoor platforms can come in handy. Seems like they would be. Right? Just make them a little bit more like this. And then up a little more. That's pretty much it. Yeah. How I'm going to contextualize that within the world, that's a fantastic question. I know nobody asked it, but I just did. Why would you have these things in a mineshaft. I guess they can just be wooden platforms that are like broken down and go down as a result, and then they go back up because gameplay. Because gameplay, yes. And then the last jump, of course, because it is the last jump, does need to have like a danger thing to it still. Which also might not be possible in heights. We'll have to see. But that effectively like makes this entire thing more or less finished. That's the wrong save file. So I think I'll put some walls around it to also get a feel for like how tight of a space it is. For those mineshaft parts, the idea is that if you mess up any of the jumps in them, you just like fall down back to like base level, back to like here, and you have to make your way like back here, over and across. Fuck. So if that happens at the end, because we do have checkpoints at other points of the... I fell for my own trap! But yeah, because we have these... My god! Okay, so these things are effective traps, clearly. We have those checkpoints after each one of these like segments, right? So these segments by themselves can be relatively... I think I should give those a little bit more of a grace period. Because right now they are kind of brutal. That said, that could actually be an interesting thing. I don't know if I want to like make a hard mode or anything. At the moment, I don't have any plans for it because that requires like a lot of extra, not programming. Programming side of it would actually be pretty easy because it's just a couple of dynamic values that I have to like. If this mode, then it's this. If this mode, it's this. But the game balancing for all that becomes an issue, and I'm already like worried about balancing for just like normal playthrough. So maybe I'll do a hard mode in the future. But that's kind of the thing where hard mode can also influence those things, right? Make them a little bit less forgiving and fall down easier and quicker. Okay, don't mess up here. Just wait it out and go across. There we go. Okay, and then this is actually like straight up not possible, I think. Maybe with a dash it might just about be possible. Nope, just not. But that's a matter of just putting that one like 100, 150 units down. Guys are reflection. Exactly. So yeah, if you fall down after the first bit, this is tedious to do, but it's less tedious than having to redo all the platforming. So like, pick your poison, effectively. Let's see, this is 999, it's 300, 400. So this is a 300 unit increase. This is a 200 unit increase. So I guess we just put this one up 100 more units, and then we make sure that everything else is also a 200 unit increase. So this goes to 650, of course. So 600. Well, actually 699 it should be, so it should be the other way. So then there should be 899. This should be 099. Yeah, okay. So I actually did that properly. Let's make sure that these are also evenly spaced in the other directions. So this is 700. It's 47. It's 39. So that would be 800 units, so this would be 31. Which means that both of these also need to 92 to make sense. That is 800, I think. Yes, but there should be that all adds up. Okay. Surprisingly, they're fairly evenly spaced out by just eyeballing. No idea how I did that. Hopefully, I can develop that as a skill to always do. Okay, with that, this might be a little iffy to do this, but we're gonna do it this way. I'm just gonna put down a bunch of blocks, and those bunch of blocks are gonna be the walls for these areas. For now. But this feels like the kind of thing that once I am actually like doing anything with it, we're going to have to make like a sculpted area for this or something like that. I don't know how I'm going to like technically do this. This is kind of what I'm saying. I actually don't think I want a wall here at all. Maybe. I think just having like an open area to like, if you're standing here, see that there's like stuff coming up ahead. It's kind of cool. And I don't think you can cheese like around this too easily. And if you can, that's fine. It's not that big a deal. I probably do want these to like go back down to the ground though. Again, I resent the idea that a game should be uncheesable. Like if something is a little cheesy, or you can skip something, but it requires like intended effort to do that, that's okay. I don't mind that. You don't want like sequence breaks or like skips happening too easily and too accidentally. Mostly the accidentally part. But if people like find a way to like skip certain things, like make it past this jump because it'll be like a little bit faster, but you do need to like jump and dash at the right time, and that's actually kind of tricky. I don't think it'll be tricky here. I think this is actually going to be a super easy skip still. So maybe bad example. But I think for the most part, that's probably like not that big a deal. But we'll see. Most skips are more likely to get free promotion from games on Great. Yeah, that's kind of true. I hate it. It doesn't happen so much more these days because developers have stopped hating speedrunners. Luckily, but it very much like used to be a thing where speedrunners skips would just literally be like patched out of games because they're bugs. Mostly by like giant studios, starting with the letter N, just as a random example. And I kind of hate that. Like, why would you go through the actual efforts to make other people's experience with your game worse while it's not like impacting your average player? If it's a bug that's like actually game breaking for your average player, of course you're gonna patch that out. Like, that's not the thing that I'm like talking about. If it's something that is like super hard to replicate and people are like doing it because of speedrunning stuff, that's super cool. Why would you patch that out? Like, I actually really like that's again, I'm glad that it doesn't happen so much anymore. Because it's the worst. And I say that as not even like a big speedrun kind of guy myself. Let's make this like 7,000 might be a bit much. 6,000. 6,500. That seems pretty good. This is IGN format where devs get to watch speedruns and some get really butthurt. Yeah, that's like, honestly, like if you're watching a dev look at a speedrun of their game and they get offended, that is a like major red flag. Like the only like the fact that it can be painful that you've worked for so long on something and you can see people breaking it down, like on some level that hurts. I get that. But for the most part, the initial response to be, "What the fuck? This is amazing!" Like I remember from that like very format, I remember watching the Crash Bandicoot 4 dev team respond to an early speedrun of their game, like 2 months after it was released. So I'm sure at this point that speedrun is like a lot more broken than it was back at the time. And the developers were just like absolutely fucking mind blown with how insane people have broken their game. Um, like to an insane extent, not that the people are insane. Well, a little bit of both, maybe. Um, let's be honest. Like that kind of excitement, I think we should cherish. I actually think that the openness going from like a little tight to a little bit more open to like gradually a little bit more tight again is actually like nice. I didn't really plan that out. I just kind of started like blocking this shit out, but I think it works. I also didn't make a proper copy of this one, so let me do that real quick. Like, if my game even like would sell well enough to the point where anybody gives a shit about playing it more than once to the point where they will speedrun it, first thing that I would say is please go to therapy. But I would be so goddamn excited about seeing how they break stuff. That said, anybody playtesting for me, I am less than excited to see how you guys break my game, but it's a necessary evil, but man, like some things I've started peeking through the feedback now because I really need to. I have this weekend, I believe, scheduled in to like actually sit down for like 5 hours to look through all of it. There's some issues where like item duplication or like when you have a item in like limbo when you close down the menu, it stays on screen, and you can do like weird stuff with that. Effectively, you have like item storage that way, like an extra slot at all times. Those kind of the bugs, like, yeah, that's I should fix that. And then there's the kind of bug where if you like jump at a specific angle at a specific like mesh, while pressing a specific button combination while having like 3 different types of enemies up your ass, you teleport to the credits. Well, that's not an actual like bug, but like that type of bug, right? Those are painful to see pop up because I'm like, is this something that I should spend time looking into? Because there's 2 sides to playtesting, and I love everybody giving me that time to playtest, but the fundamental issue with a lot of playtesting still is that people are aware that they're playtesting, and as such, they're going to hunt for things to break the game, which they wouldn't do if they were just playing your game because they're playing your game, right? And that's a valuable thing to have because, like, full-on bug hunting is valuable, but that's a different thing from like normal playtesting. I feel like normal playtesting, and I probably should like write this up in a document where like anytime you playtest something, I think it is important to play through it as you play through any game to begin with, and then go back to do like weird bug hunting stuff. Because it's important to see how many of these bugs pop up through organic play styles, like just organically playing the game. What issues do you run into? Because those need to be fixed 100%. Things that you hunt for and find are more of a 50-50 as to like, am I going to spend time trying to fix this, even trying to figure out what's causing this, right? I don't know how I got onto this tangent from speedrunning. I just have playtesting on my mind because I'm finally getting around to watching that stuff. But yeah, we have this first like little bit more or less finished. This does not need to be nearly. Oh, that's the wrong thing. This actually does effectively need to be this size. So there's that. Let's copy just both of these over. Nope. Put them up like that. And we have our first little bit of like matchup. And then we just do something similar here until we get up there. And then I kind of want to have a third one. So this is going to be like, this level is going to reach up to like all the way up there. But since it is so linear, I feel like there should be like a lot of content as well. Because again, well, maybe not. What I think is for the next floor, which will probably like end up somewhere in this high area, the platforming should be done throughout the like outside. So if you fall down to this area and have a ladder back up instead of falling all the way down to the floor again, and then having to go up this ladder and then another whole ass ladder to the next level again as well. So yeah, I think what we'll have to do is we'll do like one more of these extra tunnels that ends up going through right here. Then we have like a little bit of spiral platforming in that area. Then we have one more tunnel, and that tunnel ends up with the key itself, and just an opening to jump all the way back down immediately. Because you're going to be up so fucking high, you don't want to platform down all the way through that. But I think we did a decent enough job setting up like this initial bit of platforming. There's a little bit of like empty space here that is a little weird, admittedly. So maybe what we want to do is like do a little bit of like this potentially. A little bit of that. And then this can stick to there, right? Yeah. This feels like it uses the space a little bit more this way. And then we can even, well, this one should then be turned around. But we can make these line up to the actual like walls, which will make them feel a bit more like they belong. So we do jump, jump, jump. Unlike these ones, which are like all kinds of fucks. But we can maybe use that same wall for these as well. Now I think about it, just like move this over a bit. That jump is still doable. I guess for this one we just kind of do a fourth one, maybe. This feels like it could be tricky. Yeah, I don't know about that. That feels like it could be maybe a bit too tricky. But if we give it like a little bit more grace period before they fall down, that should probably be fuck. Well, actually, that gives me a great opportunity to test whether or not I can. Okay, yeah, super easily. Like not even maybe a little bit cheesy. That just seems like the way you're supposed to do that. But yeah, we can just like immediately jump, jump, jump. Well, it's actually not bad. Kind of like that. Don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. Ah! Okay. I would argue that this is a fairly well put together like little linear platforming section for now. And then we get to here, and then we just make like two more of those. So yeah, next week or again this weekend, depending on how much time I feel like I have for it. We'll do the next bit. We won't have to go to the ladders again, which took like an hour and a half today. So we'll probably be able to set up the next two of these sections both, meaning that we'll have effectively the entire like platforming level done. by start of next week, this weekend, whatever, one or the other. And then we can start moving on to the blockouts of these rooms. This room I don't think I have planned when to do yet, but this is like the pre-boss room, which is just like a save point, and we need to like think of a bit of like environmental story there as to like what kind of objects are going to be in there, what kind of room is it going to be, and then the boss room, which is going to be bigger than this, don't worry, which is effectively like the high priest's like office, kind of a mix between like a bit of a churchy area, because I also want to like have the stained glass in there. Does it make sense because we're entirely underground? No, but I want to like invoke like religious feelings because church area. So it's gonna have stained glass. It's gonna have like a couple of like statues, maybe, or whatever. So we'll probably combine these two into one stream, because this is going to be super easy. It's just going to be a box with a door in it, and then a little bit of like, I don't know, stuff. And then this is going to take a little bit more effort, and then this we're just going to ignore for the time being. I'm going to be real with you. And after that is done, I think we need to like start working on the actual boss fight for this dude. Because we don't have a boss for this yet. We have this entire dungeon. The dungeon needs a boss fight. And I have some ideas for the boss fight, but not a lot yet. I barely finished redoing the boss fight for the purple dungeon. The state tree doesn't crash the engine anymore, so that's good. Because that did happen. And I did add one more attack. I need like one or two more attacks still. There also needs to be a cutscene, and he needs to like not start as being aggressive and all that kind of stuff. But for now, that's not like the most important bit. So yeah, I added this new attack, which also makes me think that like this little lower down area in the middle needs to go, because that makes it a little bit too easy to like, avoid this attack in particular. But this is just an attack where you can see what's happening. I don't need to explain it to you. This just goes on for like 20-some seconds, so you get a little bit of opportunity to like hack away at him. And I also added in a new cooldown that after he does any of like his special attacks, he's got 3 of them now. He's gonna like at least get a 4th, maybe a 5th. He's got a 45-second cooldown until he can do the next one. So he's gonna be stuck doing just like his basic attacks for about 45 seconds until the next. And then still it can take longer because it is entirely like based on RNG which attack he does. So naturally, sometimes it will take longer than that 45 seconds to do. Like it is now. He's beating all statistical odds for not doing those attacks. The 45 seconds is definitely used up by now. Dude, do one of the other things. Are you bugged? I did see him do like multiple attacks before. I also need to do this boss fight with having a healing spell, because he... Okay, that's the first. We have this attack as well, which is significantly shorter in most regards. But also easier to play around with, so there's a bit of a trade-off there. So are you going to like do another attack in a moment? Because you damn sure should. I also made the cooldown thing into an interface so that it's not reliant on the like base class anymore. Because the Reaper technically doesn't share the same like blueprint base class as other enemies because of the way that it moves. because it moves with a spline, which does through like some C++ code. That's on a different like class. And it's a whole thing. Yeah, so maybe that shared cooldown timer is kind of bugging it, because it does not seem like it's doing anything aside from just like normal attacks. Which is weird, right? Yeah, I definitely should have done one by now. It's also floating away. Don't know what the fuck is up with that. Oh, okay, so it does go into its ultimate attack at some point, which is pretty, like, fucking easy. Oh. Okay, so there's a little bit of bugginess though with that boss fight. Clearly. You mean set distance? Wait, what the... What? I was not trying to get targets. That's gotta be like the first couple of ticks, right? I don't care. I don't know. Yeah, so this is supposed to set the cooldown to 45 seconds for special attack on all of them. But it seems like once it does that once, it just locks it out of them altogether, which is weird. Yeah, might need to look at that. Also, the ultimate attack has an issue where it tries to attack at a distance, which I don't even know how that is possible. Why does it do one of the distance attacks while in the ultimate attack? Because ultimate attack should go into passive. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Unless do ability... Like, when does this ability end? Does the ability just end instantly? Oh, it might. Uncomplete or uninterrupt for the dash. And the dash attack. No. I guess it might interrupt the dashing montage, because this is the dashing montage, right? That's quick attack. What the? Yeah, so something is definitely like fucked with that. So this is the Reaper quick attack 1, and this is the Reaper like dash attack montage. So this should just... Yeah, and this snaps him back to this plane. I don't know. I'm not here to debug the Reaper boss fight. I will do that in my own time, like off stream, because I don't even know where to start looking for issues with him. But what I do know is that we've been live for a hot minute now, so I'm going to call it here for right now. Again, next time we'll be back doing some more with this mess of a level. It's going to be a mess-ish level, so that actually kind of adds up. and hopefully finish it off. So thanks everybody for joining in and hanging out and having fun. If you didn't have fun, that's your problem, not mine. And I will be back again, maybe during the weekend, but at least, unless my internet breaks down again, which you never know, on Tuesday.